Hey, Rick. How's it going today?
Hey, Carlos, how's it going?
Good. Getting ready for the
Doing
weekend?
well.
So,
Can't wait, man.
can't wait. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. And today, as usual, so we are going to be talking about Google, as always, and I'm giving you a few tips on content. But so we're going to talk about Meta integrating Google and Bing search results into their AI assistant. Um, an article about content distribution and 22 places you should be sharing your content. Rick is going to tell us about the forgotten conclusion. And this is a very cryptic headline. So I want to hear all about it. I don't even know what this is about. There is also something that is not getting talked about a lot or enough, which is some of e-commerce sites have been indirectly impacted by the recent updates. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean by that. And now talking about diversifying your strategy, we'll talk about how to optimize for Google discovery. And we're going to close talking about white hat, black hat, gray hat. What is all that about, and what are the difference amongst those, and probably some tips coming from Rick about how to handle those. All right, so looking forward for this packed episode. So let's start talking about Meta. Is integrating Google and Bing search results into their AI assistant. I gotta make a confession. I didn't know much about this AI assistant on Meta, but of course I'm not surprised. I know Mark Zuckerberg has been talking a lot about their own AI. They are using a model called Llama 3, and they are now pulling search results from Bing and Google with this assistant. And it's available not only on Facebook, but also on Instagram and WhatsApp. WhatsApp was the one that was more intrigued about. I know WhatsApp is not that big in the US. It's huge outside of the US. And I use it a lot with my family and with my friends. And I haven't figured out how the AI assistant is incorporated to it. But it's very interesting. I think at the end of the day, what Google is trying, Facebook is trying to do, or Meta is trying to do, is to keep people on their platform. They don't want you to switch platforms, which I think is better user experience for sure. I don't think that's the main intention. I think they just want to keep you in. They don't want you to leave the platform. The moment that you leave the platform, the chances of you not coming back are higher. So very interesting how this is going to impact SEOs. It's hard to say yet, but I think one of the recommendations is trying to incorporate content that is more conversational and lends itself better to chatbots. So yeah, that's, again, this is very new, so we'll have to see how it evolves, but something that, another thing to keep track of and pay attention to. Do you have anything to say about this?
I did try it out. I went onto Facebook mobile. It didn't seem to work on desktop, but I went on to my mobile and I tried a few searches and a couple interesting things. I mean, the results were fine. No links in the results. There's a little blue link at the very bottom of the results you get that says sources. If you click on that, it'll show you the links and you can go to them. But what was interesting, of the three searches I did, one, I asked what's new in SEO today. It gave me one link to kind of a news aggregator site. It was Bing search, by the way. All three of my searches ended up using Bing. The second search, I asked what's a good microphone for streaming a podcast. And it gave me a bunch of brands, no links. It named off 6 or 7 different mics that I might be interested in, 0 sources on that search, which I found interesting. So I said, where can I buy one? And it listed out some retailers, the common ones you'd expect. Yeah. But when I go to the sources, thinking I'm going to see those retailers, I saw one affiliate article link only, nothing else. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think they're still probably perfecting it.
They're figuring it out.
Yeah, and I figure they get way less heat that Google gets.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that you mostly got Bing results, because I think the article where I pulled this information from mentioned the same thing, that the searches that he was conducting mostly came from Bing. So I don't know what to make out of that, but anyway, something that we need to
early days. Right?
We need to continue to track this, and we'll keep you all appraised on if there's anything worth mentioning here. Okay, So talking about content platforms and content distribution, we know we need to diversify our channels now more than ever, especially that Google has demonstrated to everybody making content that it's probably a smart idea to diversify. Um, so I came across an article called 22 Places You Should Be Sharing Your Content. And I think this is very relevant because, again, distribution is about getting more eyes, or more capture a bigger audience for the content that you're producing. So there were some places I was surprised. I never heard of them. And I kind of just wonder, like, okay, why aren't we doing this? So I think it's an interesting article for people to expand their horizons or where to distribute content, because I think is of course is getting harder to get in front of an audience. There's lots of competition. Google, of course, has raised the bar. So for people in SEO, has become a little bit, their job is a little bit more challenging these days. So I'm not going to get into each of the places that they recommend, but just want to list them out really quickly so you can go check out the article and learn more about it. We're going to link it in our newsletter, but let's start with Substack. I think that's the first one they mentioned. I wasn't sure about them. I think it's a newsletter platform. LinkedIn newsletters, I think, is getting a lot of usage lately, but it's still early days. So I think sometimes it's good to get early in some of these channels. One Pitch, I have never heard of this one. Yeah, I think you can bet you can pitch journalist on a topic. So very interesting. Medium, of course, has been around for a while, but I don't know if people pay enough attention to it. Reddit, of course, but I think the main point here is that it has to be under personal accounts, not like, because there is a lot of control on the spam, companies trying to spam Reddit, but under personal accounts and more kind of natural, in a natural way. LinkedIn articles, so you can write articles, and like LinkedIn has a format for articles. I'm not sure about that one. I don't know. It gets a lot of reach, or I might be mistaken here, but I've seen some of those articles come up. I just don't feel compelled to click on them. We wrote a couple, and we didn't see much traction. But again, is another option. Forbes consoles, email, of course. DZone is about technology, so it's probably for technology content. X or Twitter, personal page on Facebook, Facebook groups, Slack communities. The Slack communities, this thing is growing a lot, and I've seen a lot of communities being formed in Slack that have grown, and I think it's a great, still early days kind of channel that maybe people can take advantage of. SlideShare, this is one where probably it doesn't cross your mind, but if you ever spend any time on a SlideShare, there are millions of presentations there, so great content. I think the UI UX, there's too many ads on SlideShare, but you find very valuable slides, especially from conferences. I spoke in a couple of conferences, and my slides when they another distribution channel, Quora, similar to Reddit. This one I was surprised. Growth Hackers. This for anything that has to do with growing your company, growing your business, so you can publish your content there. Flipboard. It's also an aggregator of bite-sized blocks of content. Scoop.it or Scoop it. I never heard of that one. Listly, platform that allows users to create, share, and engage with lists on various topics. Threads, yeah, I have forgotten about Threads. They tried to compete with X. Apparently, they have 100 million users. Anyway, it's still out there. And Mastodon is an open source social networking platform. So interesting. Anyway, not saying or suggesting that you need to put your content in all the 22 options here, but some of them are interesting to consider, and some of them I think are untapped. So maybe it's worth exploring some of those. Okay, well, enough about that, and we'll share the link in the newsletter. Rick, I'm very intrigued about this, the forgotten conclusion. That's a very you're a great headline writer, so you got me hooked already. I want to know everything about
Well,
this.
I hope it lives up to the hype because it's not that mysterious. Um, I'm going to throw a blanket over every writer and brief creator out there. So apologies ahead of time. I know not everyone does this, but in all honesty, many brief creators and writers get to a certain point in their article and say or feel, I'm done. And you would think that that would be the end, right? But it's not. It's the conclusion. If there is one piece of a blog post, of an article that is just mailed in, like, whew, I'm done, let me just whip this up real quick and out the door, right? It's the conclusion. And it's such an important part of content that to kind of sweep it under the rug, or to just half, I did this last week. I almost cursed. Half effort it.
It's okay. It's okay. We're in a safe place, Rick. No, we're not gonna judge.
Right. um, but I mean, you've seen it, right? It's a vague summary of what you just read most of the time, and then a generic CTA. Happens all the time. But there's so much valuable. It's a waste of good opportunities. So I just wanted to talk real quick, Carlos, about the things you could be doing with your conclusion. So I'm going to give you, let's see, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things you could and should be doing with your conclusions. Don't try to squeeze them all into one, or your conclusion will be half the article. But make sure you're checking 2 or 3 of these boxes every time your writer or your brief creator is working on this to ensure that you're getting the value that you should be. So let's start with the first one. Summarize, but in a so what manner. Okay, this is the most common usage of a conclusion, is to kind of just summarize at a higher level everything you just went over. But do that with, when you come up with that sentence or so that kind of summarizes the main point, ask yourself, so what? I'm the reader, so what? Why do I need to know this? And that needs to go in to your content. Second one, encourage action. Part 1. We want to encourage action from the reader on a personal level. What should they go do right now with what they learned? So this isn't, your call to action. This isn't sending them somewhere else on your site. This is, if it applies to the type of content you're writing, now you've learned this, you should go do this thing. You should consider doing that thing, but give them something to do. Now, part 3, or actually number 3, but part 2, encourage action. Part 2, that's your CTA. Stop with the, for more questions, contact us, with a link to your contact page, right? Every CTA and every article should be customized to the business objective tied to that article. What the purpose your business produced this content, aside from providing value to your readers. But you're hoping to achieve something. Sign up a newsletter, convert, buy something, get a service, progress down the funnel. Maybe it's checking out case studies. Whatever you've designed this content to do, your CTA should align with that. So be very specific with where you're sending people and the wording you use when doing that. Number 4, provide options. Not everybody wants to A, be finished, and B, go buy your service or product, right? So somewhere the conclusion is a good place for this, but if not the conclusion, then just before it, give your reader options. Consider where they are in your funnel. Give them a parallel option or 2. They may not be ready to go down to the next level. So give some relevant content that they can go to that's in the same funnel segment, and then give them an option or 2 that takes them down the funnel. That can often be also your CTA, right? But give them a place to go that makes sense. Ask yourself, if I'm the reader and I get through this, what might I want to know? What might I want to do? And make sure you give them the ability to do Number 5, encourage interaction. We've talked a lot about UGC lately, so please turn comments on in your blogs. Listen to your audience. Ask them to share, or to go to your Facebook and like it, preferably to share, or even signing up for something, even if that's not the direct CTA, but try to get some interaction from them. Conclude the story. Number 6, if you are weaving storytelling into your piece, carry it through all the way to the conclusion. That will help your time on page. That will help keep readers engaged. But wrap up your story in that in that conclusion. And last one is to provoke thought. Provoke thought that you may not necessarily answer. So bring up a question with a related topic that your subject matter, could impact in the future. I should have put some examples together for this, but now that they've absorbed your information, ask them a question without giving an answer. It gets them thinking, and it could create curiosity enough to go look or continue on their journey with you. Getting your readers to think is a good thing. And then real quick, I know this is going a little long, so I put together a few pitfalls to avoid, and they're kind of the opposite of the things I just mentioned, right? So don't repeat an idea that's already covered in detail without suggesting action or providing the so what. Preferably, it's a summary. Take all the little bits and pieces you talked about. Here's your big picture. So avoid just repeating something. I hate this, don't end the article abruptly. We still see it, right? You feel like you're 2/3 of the way into the article, you're engaged, and it ends, and you start scrolling on some sites through all those garbage spam links at the bottom. But there's no conclusion, like you're left hanging, kind of like the end of the last Spider-Verse movie, right? Reaching a dead end. So this would be the opposite of not giving them somewhere to go. Don't just conclude the article with your summary and so give them somewhere to go. So avoid the dead end, avoid vague CTAs. They'll contact us again. Customize your CTA to what you're looking for them to do, and avoid overpromising. And that can be both in content. So if you're trying to get them to sign up for a newsletter, be sure that newsletter is actually something that's happening regularly. If you're going to promise more content on this subject, make sure that you're able to fulfill that. And don't overpromise on your service or your product. In today's world, people are just more sensitive to platitudes, things that aren't genuine. You're not going to save the world with your product. You're not going to give them the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So don't overpromise. And that's it. Any thoughts on conclusions, Carlos? Yeah. Did this live up to the hype of its title?
Yeah, no, like this is gold, man. And you know what? I'm being so disappointed with actually big publications, like national news publications. Like, this is it? Like, it feels like did you lost power in the middle of the article? Like, what happened? You got tired? Did you pass out? Like, don't you like that's
they had a word count limit?
Yeah, really. Oh, word count. Okay, I'm here. I'm done. Like, no conclusion. So yeah, like you need to wrap it up with a bow, right? Like we need closure as humans, I think, and we need that. Okay, you told me all these things. Now my head is full of stuff. Can you help me also, like, kind of synthesize it at the end? Okay, so what? Okay, what do I do with this now? What's the next step? Like, this is gold. I think this is great. A good reminder for content marketers, writers, that it is very important. You need to take the people through the full journey, and we as humans, we understand things on a linear way, and we need, like, beginning and end. So I feel so many times reading something that I walk away with that bad taste in my mouth, like I'm missing something. What is it? Might be the conclusion, right? Because I feel, yeah, I get it. As a writer, you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, I wrote everything I could. I don't want to summarize it, right? I just feel like people get tired. So I wonder if there's any technique, like, should you write your conclusion at the beginning and then write the rest? Or I don't know. But
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we often tell writers not to write their intros till the end, because writers struggle with intros, and it's a lot easier to write it after you've written the rest of the copy. But writing the conclusion first could be starting with the end goal in mind,
Yeah,
right?
something like that. But anyway, please pay attention to the conclusion, to your conclusions. Don't forget about them. So great, great. You deliver. You definitely delivered, Rick. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, so I know totally different topic here, but this is something that people haven't talked a lot about, or not enough, because everybody's talking about how all these small independent publishers and affiliate marketers lost all this traffic. But what a lot of people are not talking about is a lot of e-commerce sites, especially independent or smaller e-commerce sites, Amazon sellers or people that sell to Shopify or independent e-commerce sites are being impacted indirectly from all the updates. And the problem is that a lot of affiliate marketers lost all this traffic, which means that they're not selling traffic to e-commerce sites. So if you're an e-commerce site and you're seeing your sales, your revenue, your transactions impacted, is because definitely you're not getting enough traffic from your affiliates, which are not getting traffic from Google. That's just the simple equation. So what? Well, you need to probably diversify your source of traffic, unfortunately, and maybe try to partner with better affiliates, higher quality affiliates that haven't been impacted, and or maybe diversify to social media sources as well of traffic for your product. Unfortunately, some of you might have been caught in these updates and need to start thinking, if you're not already, in how to diversify from getting away from affiliates a little bit, or not getting away from them, but looking for other sources that are going to supplement that traffic. So something to think about if you're in the e-commerce game. How to get more traffic for your product.
Make sure you're publishing content, right?
Yeah.
Instead of relying on all the affiliates to do it.
Or use one of those other channels that we talked about to publish your content and get people to your site. I know it's easier said than done, but something to think about for people. Okay, so talking about diversification, there's been a lot of noise or more talk about Google Discover, and I get to confess, about maybe a couple of years ago, I didn't even know what Google Discover was. So for people that don't know what Google Discover is a feed that it works like a social network. So it feeds you content based on your preferences, right? So of course you can set up your preference at the beginning when you do your initial setup for Google Discover. And as you read and as you consume the content, you feed the algorithm and keeps personalizing your feed. It's very similar to how social networks work. Their algorithms feeds you stuff that you are interested on, or based on your demographics and et cetera, et cetera. But for content marketers that want to diversify their channels, well, this is not necessarily getting away from Google, but at least you're getting into another Google channel that might get you some traffic. I actually met some people that made a lot of money capitalizing discovered traffic, or most of their business is based on discovered traffic. So how to optimize for it? The good old create great content, human first content. Of course, that's just kind of a universal principle for everything Google. But beyond that, there are a couple of things that are interesting here. So one is headlines are more important for discover than usual search. And the reason is because, again, you're attracting people on the fly. You're not looking for this, right? You are just going to your feed and seeing what's interesting. So to be able to attract the click, you need to have a very compelling headline, right? And of course, you have to deliver on the headline. Otherwise, it's clickbait, and you might gain some traffic immediately, but then in the long run, you're going to lose it. So headlines are extremely important. So you need to spend more time on them, and the visual appeal is very important as well, because it shows you a headline, an image, and a little summary. So the image is going to be very important for you to attract the audience. So again, compared to search, to regular search, headlines and images are more important for Google Discovery. And the third thing is that you might want to have a balance between newsy or like more news-oriented stuff or current stuff and evergreen stuff. So because again, it feeds you a little bit of news and a little bit of more evergreen content depending on your preferences. So if you go all evergreen, you might be missing out on a little bit of news. If you're more news, you might be missing out on a little bit of evergreen. So you have to find a balance. What is a balance? There's no real rule of thumb here, 50-50. I don't know. Of course, if you have a side product or service that is more dependent on the news, or let's say if you're in entertainment and is everything about gossip and celebrities, maybe it's all about news, right? But maybe there's some stuff like us, we're content marketers, we're more interested in evergreen stuff, even though there's a lot of news around our topic. So if you can find a balance between those two, you have a better chance. So again, it's a channel that is gaining a lot of interest, and people are starting to capitalize on it. And I think it's still early. The other tip that I forgot is that you need to optimize for mobile. Very important, because this is more consumed on mobile than on desktop. So very important that all of your content is optimized for mobile. So look it up, and maybe you should start considering optimizing for discovery as well. Rick, any thoughts on that?
Does anybody not optimize for mobile anymore?
Well,
one quick thing.
That is a good point, but you'd be surprised.
Yeah. One quick thing. You mentioned trying to find that balance between evergreen content and trying to get into what's essentially a news feed with relevant today type of knowledge or information. One tactic you can do is to create content for today, newsworthy subject matter. When it runs its course, repurpose it into evergreen content.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Can you think of an example of that?
Well, any kind of breaking news. So if we were to publish an article today, Carlos, about let's say, well, let's rewind to September. Helpful content comes out. We've learned everything about it, and we put out a journalistic style article on what helpful content is and what it means for you and everything you need to do. It's written in a style that's right now. Okay. And hopefully it gets picked up by some feeds. It runs its course. You get all that front loaded traffic, but then it's gone, or not gone, but it's lost. Yeah. Then once that front loaded traffic is done, take that article, rewrite it to an evergreen. What is the helpful content update? What does it mean for websites? What can you do to avoid being penalized? And then it's a blog post. So it can save on costs. Rather than writing two, you're writing one by starting with that journalistic, newsworthy type of approach, and then repurposing it or like a refresh, going into it and adjusting it so that it's more evergreen.
Yeah. No, that's a good tip. Very, very interesting. All right, so let's wrap it up with white hat versus black hat versus gray hat. What is the name of that guy from Alice in Wonderland? The Mad Hatter.
Oh, the Mad Hatter. Yeah.
That's what. Lots of hats. That's what.
I think his was purple though. Right. And we're not going to talk about purple hats today. That's something else entirely.
Okay, so what do you have in mind with all these hats?
Well, it all stemmed from, I was looking to see what we published this week, Carlos, because we do like to make sure we talk about those topics. And you published an article, a nice guide to SEO optimization. Great for beginners, for anyone who is maybe a writer but you don't know SEO very well, or you're running a business, you're doing your own content marketing, and you want to learn a few things. This is a great place to go. We'll put a link in the newsletter when we send this out. But in reading it, the first words in the article were like LSI keywords, SERPs, white hat versus black hat, just some common SEO terms. And it just got me thinking, I wonder how many people out there really don't know. Like, you hear those terms, but do you really know what they are or what kind of SEO tactics fall into which bucket? So I thought it might make a good segment to come in and just talk about it. I even considered quizzing you with a giant list of SEO tactics.
Don't.
You could guess white hat.
Don't.
So let's start with a quick definition, right? So white hat techniques are techniques that adhere to search guidelines and result in content that provides value to your audience. It's doing things the right way. It's producing content for an audience, not for SEO. Whereas black hat is the opposite. These are the tactics that look for loopholes in algorithms. things that can be exploited. They usually result in short-term gains and large messes on the back end when the algorithm catches up. That's black hat. Then there's gray hat. Gray hat is, it's like it's not necessarily black hat depending on how you do it. And a good example of that is content automation, which when I get into some examples, you'll see falls under gray hat. Because if you find a way to automate your content and you're still, you're using almost fully AI, but producing really valuable content, you're adding information gain, you're differentiating, it's unique, it meets EAT principles, because you're doing some sort of human review, but whatever the case may be, you've automated and you're producing fantastic content. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're cranking out 1,000 blog posts a month with simple AI prompts, 100% AI, no oversight, low quality, now you take that and you go black hat. So gray hat could go in either direction depending on how you're using the tactic, the practice. So what are some examples? White hat, no surprises here. Quality content, if you're putting practices in place at your business to produce quality content, that's white hat. Keyword research and effective use of keywords in your content, white hat. Optimizing meta tags, user-friendly website structure, mobile optimization, speed optimization, using a secure HTTPS structure, backlinking. This one will come up, I think, in all three.
It's interesting because
that really depends on how you go about it. So good organic backlinking or going out and growing your backlinks through, searching for relevant websites that have audiences that your content would appeal to and working with them to get a link back. Fantastic. Totally white hat. But some other methods aren't. We'll talk about those. Social media integration, accessibility, all of these are white hat. Black hat. A lot of these aren't very surprising either. Keyword stuff.
Yeah.
It used to work. Or keyword stuffing and changing it so that the text matches I think that's called, it might be on here, keyword hidden text. Yes. You type a ton of keywords in a big block at the bottom of your article and then just make the text match the background so nobody can see them. And people were having success with this, right? So cloaking is when you present a different content or URL to search engines and users, which can deceive search engine indexes. Doorway pages, which is low quality pages loaded with keywords, but directly redirect to a different page. Link farms, communities where sites get together and they're just exchanging inbound links to each other to build up their backlinking. So there it is as black hat. Article spinning, this is one we have to fight against. And that's when a content writer takes the subject matter that they're supposed to write about, goes and looks and see what's ranking, basically recreates one of the top couple ranking articles. That's the same exact thing. Doesn't add anything to it. Just changes enough wording, moves things around a little bit. That's content spinning. And that's no good. You're not adding anything, and it's borderline plagiarism. Duplicate content, that's flat out plagiarism, right? Nothing new there. You can't take other people's content and post it on your site. You shouldn't even be duplicating content on your own site.
It's self plagiarism.
Abusing rich snippets. That's using structured data to try to mislead the search engine into thinking that you have something that fits rich results, right? Buying links, another backlinking method that is black hat. And automated queries to Google. I didn't know this was a thing, but you can pump up search terms using software to generate searches or clicks to manipulate search.
That's interesting.
Results. Yeah. Now the gray hat. So these could go either way. Clickbait.
Oh.
We try to ride the line with the titles on these videos, right? Right, Carlos? We want them to be appealing and bring people in, but we also want to make sure we deliver. Well, some don't really care about delivering, right? So if you're using clickbaity titles and not delivering, then that gray hat really is black hat. Purchasing old domains, buying old domains with strong SEO, redirecting them to your site to transfer the SEO benefits.
Mm.
Duplicate content with slight modifications. So not a full spin, you're just changing a few words. Um, I'm not sure why that would be listed under gray hat or why I put it there. There may be some cases where that's definitions and such, widely accepted wording for something I could see falling under that. But I would guess that in most cases, you're just spinning or outright plagiarizing, and that's black hat. Link exchange, when it's not to provide value to each other's audiences, but simply to build links. Social media spam, content automation, gray hat, use that in the example, right? It can be good, it can be bad. Aggressive link building. Again, if you're going after links aggressively, that the audience for that site really isn't your audience, that falls under black hat. If you're aggressively going after or good, strong links and providing resources trying to aggressively get organic backlinks, nothing wrong. I thought there was one more. Anyway, real quick, let's get into risks. I'll try to wrap this up quickly. So what happens? You're sitting here, you're listening to this, and you realize, oh my God, my SEO is doing half of those black hat things, and I didn't know that this was bad news. Well, you run the risk of penalties from search engines. You run the risk of temporary gains with very costly corrections when the algorithm catches up. Damage to your reputation, wasted resources. Again, everything you're producing that takes advantage of a loophole will eventually be near worthless, if not completely worthless. It will need to be taken down, corrected, fixed, whatever it may be. And you will always be vulnerable to every single search engine algorithm update. And you will sweat those nights when they roll out. So if that's happening to you, please, please, please contact an SEO professional, one who is reputable. Do an SEO audit on your site. Find out what needs to be corrected. Get with a strategist. Find out the best way to go about making these fixes. Implement guidelines for your business on this is how we do things to make sure that you're in line with white hat tactics and that you're set up for long-term success and not spending all your content marketing dollars trying to fix prior mistakes or schemes that may or may not have worked short term. That's it.
Yeah, well, it comes back to doing the right thing, right? Like it's so tempting sometimes to take a shortcut. It is, and that's but at the end of the day, we just saw it, right? Like Google, I think they were trying to make an example of all the sites that got the index, right? All those people bragging on the internet. By the way, if you're committing a crime, don't brag about it. If you're if you found a loophole, yeah, that's just being silly and really dumb. But all these people that were bragging about how they were getting their sites to rank and getting all this traffic with all this automated content or all these AI, like, I mean, it was deemed to happen. It was just a matter of when. So you need to earn your traffic. You need to earn your links. You need to earn your audiences eyeballs and time. So very simple. Thanks, Rick, for the reminder. Yeah, don't fall trap, especially for people that are not as experienced and sophisticated in SEO. Don't fall. Anybody that tells you I can get you to rank number one and page number one of Google, I mostly say that's a snake oil, right? Like,
it's hard work.
It is hard work, unless, yeah, and sometimes they can actually. But what I realize is that they get you to rank for these very long tail keyword that is like 50 words long, like, and is worth nothing. So yeah,
3 people searched it last.
Yeah,
week.
like again, this is be careful with a snake oil salesperson, right? Like anybody that promises you to rank you number one easily and cheaply, that's false. We know how hard it is to rank number one for a meaningful term that is going to mean more business to you. So it's possible, but again, it's not a thing of overnight, right? There's not overnight success on SEO. So good reminder, Rick.
It's a long-term game.
Yeah.
The payoffs are worth
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's worth doing the work because it's more sustainable. So good reminder, Rick. Excellent topic. So thank you very much for that, and thanks everybody for listening again. Until next episode.
Bye, everyone.